I'd like to call the order of the Pleasant Grove City Council work session this afternoon on December the 15th, 2020. We've only got 15 more days till this wonderful year's over with. So anyway, welcome we have 4 of our council members here present, and and Brent will not be joining us this evening because he is in Phoenix. So we'll excuse him this evening. So we'll go right to our first item and turn the time over to our city administrator on our Leadership Academy graduates.
Mayor, Council, in the past, we have done what we call the Leadership Academy, which is we gather certain employees in our city, and we do I don't know if we call it a training, but we sit down and we read a book called Endurance about a ill-fated trek back in the...
It's not good to read that book in the winter.
Yeah, not in the winter. It's a very, very cold book as you read what had happened to these men as they were on an expedition to Antarctica and everything fell apart and they had to figure out a way to get home. But there is some great principles that we learn in the book, particularly some leadership principles, and that's what we study. So we read the book as a group. We talk about some of the leadership examples in the book, and then we assign each member in our academy to present on a leadership principle to the rest of the group. And we do this over about a 10-week period, meeting every week. And when we're done, we have a certificate of graduation. I don't know if graduation is the proper term, but a certificate of achievement for those that participated and are now graduates of the Leadership Academy of Pleasant Grove. The group that I'm going to introduce, this is our 8th group that's gone through it, and I think by all told, we've had probably about 80 employees that have been able to do this. And so most of our employees have been through it, most of our full-time employees. And then as we gather new full-time employees, we we'll do another iteration of this and do it once a year and capture new people. But with that, we want to recognize those that graduated our last session. Now, we finished this back in late February, and we're going to have them on the agenda in March to present this. And then we had COVID, and then we decided we were going to wait for COVID to be over with. Well,
which was soon.
Guess what?
It was going to be so soon.
Not over with.
2030 will be fine.
So we thought, well, gosh, before the year's out, let's get these guys recognized for what they've done. So as I call their name, they'll come up and we can issue them their certificate. And I'm going to call them. We're not going to wait for everybody necessarily to walk up and do this, so we'll kind of keep the flow going here. So we'll start with Mike Gurley. Mike's our city treasurer. He's in the administration department. We have Kelly Closer. She's with us from the library department.
Thank you.
Chase Gussman with the fire department. Stay up here just for a sec.
Thank you.
Somewhat socially distanced, of course.
Somewhat.
Brett Waters in our recreation department.
I didn't see Brett back there.
Oh, did Dominic make it? Okay.
We'll save our applause for later.
Brett. And Kyler Ludwig in administration department. We had a couple others that were graduates. They've since we finished the program, they've taken other jobs, and so we're going to mail their certificate to them. But these are the ones that, Rhea Hanna as well.
Oh, Rhea.
Was a graduate, and she has another appointment tonight, was not able to make it. So if we can give these guys a round of applause for the record. As a reward for finishing this, they get to stay for the whole rest of the meeting, the next 3 hours. Thank you for coming.
Brett.
Before we get on to our next item, this isn't necessarily on the agenda, but Chief Thomas wanted to say a few words, so if we can have him come up.
Uh-oh, Naomi is here as well. I feel the gravity of this moment.
Mayor and Council, thank you for giving me a few minutes. I met with Mayor Fugel and Administrator Darrington yesterday, and I delivered to them my letter of intent to retire. I'm an old guy. And I keep thinking back on the old saying where, you know, no man on his deathbed ever said, "Oh, I wished I would have worked longer." And so I'm getting close to that, so I think we better just think about what we're going to do. So I want you to know how much of an honor and a privilege it has been to serve with you and for you. The citizens of Pleasant Grove are wonderful people. We have a great city here. It's wonderful, and I'm from Orem, but I feel like I'm transplanted over here. I have a great deal of respect for you as a council and the mayor. I also have a great deal of respect for the other directors. I worked with them for years, and I've had this philosophy forever that the true sign of a good leader is how well he can surround himself with good people that will carry on his goals. And so it's a credit to Mayor Fugel and to Administrator Darrington that we have such fine directors here. I also want to tell you how much it has meant to my wife and I to really be a part of this. And this is really kind of a retirement for both of us. So we have fallen in love with the fire department here, with the men and women of the fire department. They are terrific people. And they care for the people that they care for, that they treat, that they serve. And really that's part of their personality anyway, but they love this little city. And whether they're full-time or part-time, they are the best of people. They're highly skilled and well-trained, and they're wonderful people. I love them. I'm going to miss them a lot. And finally, I just want you to say, or I want to say that as you begin your search to replace me, I can tell you right now, you don't need to look far. You look within the fire department, and you'll find the talent and the people that you need inside the fire department. The culture is there. It's a unique culture, just like in every fire department, but the culture is there. And sometimes if you step out and you bring in someone from the outside, you can lose that culture. So if the culture seems to be good for you and the fire department is going in the right direction, you'll find the people you need inside. So I encourage you just to look there as you go to replace me, which may be really easy, I don't know. But with that said, thank you very much. The date that I've given is January 31.
Oh, wow.
And I've got a little bit of vacation, so I may be a little bit of a ghost for the rest of this year, but I'll be back next year for a little while. So I don't know what happened this year. It seems like something has been going around that has kept me from using my vacation, and I've got a ton of it, and I want to use a little bit of it. So I'm just going to kick back and enjoy it, but I'll be back after the first of the year. Okay. Meanwhile, if you need anything, Deputy Chief Ingeman is that phone call to make. He's a great guy, and he'll be able to work with you. And I will be around, so if something comes up, then I'll be there. Anyway, thank you so much for the privilege and the honor to be able to serve with you. It really has been fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Congratulations.
So there will be a formal one of these parties,
Yeah,
right?
where we
Yeah,
can-
not formal, but
So this isn't where you retire and then like Mark, you just go to a different department, right? Okay, got
no,
it,
he's not.
got it.
Lehigh announces a new
Yeah.
chief.
Yeah,
His partner back there's got other plans for him, but I sure hope she can cope with him being home
yeah.
all the time, so.
Bless you, Naomi.
He needs a farm.
Yeah, he needs a farm.
The mayor and I have discussed about next steps, and so I think when we have our next meeting in January, we can figure out where we're going to go from here as far as the recruitment's concerned. So I know the mayor's going to be reaching out to you guys individually, getting your thoughts and feelings on how we should proceed. So that'll be the plan.
Okay, we'll now move on to our next item, number 2, and an update from UDOT on our State Street project. So if you'd come forward and tell us we're going to break ground on it in April, that'll be great.
I promise it'll be 1 April.
One
maybe
April,
Not the next April.
April.
So my name's Eric Mason. I'm the project manager over this area in this project. Have a short presentation and give an update on the project. Thanks for allowing me a few minutes today. Next slide, please.
Is your mic on? Is there a green light on?
There is a green light. Maybe I'm,
You can
I'll
pick
get
it
a-
up.
okay.
Yeah, you can pick it up.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So this graphic on the screen is an overview of the project. It starts about 400 east in American Fork and extends to, well, 220 south in Pleasant Grove. Several major intersections through the corridor. You can see there on the bottom. The three in Pleasant Grove are the North County Boulevard, 1300 West, and Pleasant Grove Boulevard. Next slide, please. Actually, skip to the next. So the cross-section of the new roadway will be, you'll have 3 through lanes in each direction, 11 feet wide, a 12-foot median or two-way left turn lane. That's a little wider than that's out there now. 5-foot bike lanes on either side with a 3-foot buffer. And then on the north side, which will be the right on the screen here, that's where the railroad tracks are. So only curb and gutter on that side. And then on the south side, curb gutter and a 6-foot sidewalk. Next slide. A little bit of a schedule. The project resumed after a few years of delay in 2017. We resumed the right-of-way acquisition and design. That's all done, the design. The right-of-way acquisition will be done in a couple of months. And due to the high cost of the property through the corridor, it used up all of our funding. So we're looking to secure more funding. This graphic says we'll start construction in 2024. More likely, it'll be 2023 with a possibility of 2022, so April 24. But
good.
most
One of
likely
those.
2023, so about 2 years and a couple months from now is the most likely schedule. And I have a couple more slides, but I think we've given you several updates on this project. I don't know if there are any questions. We've been in contact with your Public Works and Engineering Department throughout the process. We've been in contact with the public, property owners who we acquired property from. So I'll take any questions or move on. It's up to you guys.
Council, any questions? Nope. Oh, we really look forward to having it completed on one of these years, so.
I think the whole state will. So
So it'll be great. So,
all right.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Now,
Sorry, Mayor, real quick
Yeah.
before Eric leaves, we want to express appreciation to UDOT for the lighting on going over the overpass there. They were the ones that funded the lighting to the tune of about $130,000. So we want to let UDOT know that we're grateful for that. And I mean, we contracted out and put it in, but they reimbursed us for our costs. So while they were here, we wanted to let them know we appreciate that.
Thank you.
now move to item number 3, our capital projects funding. And each of you have a copy of that with you, the final there, so turn to time to our administrator.
We gave you the initial numbers 2 weeks ago to give you a chance to review the requests that were being made by staff regarding the COVID money and the opportunity to make some improvements in our community. We listed the reasoning. I think that was part of the packet that you received. There is one change that we've had since then, and now we're probably going to change it back. We did put about $30-some thousand in for a water feature at the swim pool, $33,900. Tyler and I were talking a little bit more about it today, and we want to revisit that a little bit on the feature that we're going to recommend and maybe do something a little better. So even though this is in here at this time, we'd probably like to just put that on pause revisit that when we have our next round of capital discussion, which will be at our retreat in February. Or it might be sooner, depending on if there's something that is timely in nature and if the money's there and we want to do it. And we want it put in before the swim pool opens this summer, then we'll make sure that we can meet the timing for council approval on that. So based on this list, are there any questions? The department heads are prepared to answer any questions on any particular item that you have in here.
Let me just make sure I understand. So you have in here the swimming pool feature. It's a pretty, it's 33.9, but it seems like a pretty exact number.
Oh, yeah, so we had a feature that we want to do. It was a little hump that you put in the pool that the kids can jump and play on. In the kind of the zero entry area
Yeah.
where younger kids can play. We looked at what that was and the cost of that, and we were a little underwhelmed that this was something that we were going to get our bang for our buck. And so we want to do something a little bit better and
Good.
bigger than that.
Okay.
So we want to pull that out. What we're going to present back to you, as Tyler and I talked, there was another feature that we looked at from a different swim pool in the county. And we said, well, I said, I think maybe Tyler's with me on this one, I think we want something similar to that. Let's get a price on that. So we should have a price on that here in the next month. And then we can bring that back to you and say, okay, here's now what we're going to get, and here's what the cost is.
But what I'm thinking is if we do the 33.9, we're going to be short, right? Are there things on this list that maybe fall behind that feature?
Well, we're still leaving $107,000 unallocated of the COVID money.
So we still got some.
So
money.
We're not allocating every penny of it.
Scott, are you putting a placeholder on this amount or just washing it back into the
My
overall?
preference is we just put it back into, the number we showed you last time was about $140,000 of unallocated. I mean, at this point, we're just saying, look, this is something that we want to do a little better with what that feature's going to be. Part of this was when we did the CARE tax proposal to the community, we talked about a water feature, and we had a specific feature in mind. But as we've talked about that feature, we think it's going to block sight lines for parents that are sitting. If you've been to the pool there where the zero entry is, parents sit along that. And if we put this big feature in that blocks the view to see the rest of the pool, we think that's going to cause consternation from our patrons. And so we were looking for a feature that is a little bit more transparent where you could see through it, but yet there was something still for the kids to play on. And that's why this hump was a good idea in theory, except for when you look at it, it's like, well, that looks kind of fun, but I'm not exactly sure that's going to be the best use of our money. So that's where we circled back.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Question then, if you're going to roll that back in, I'm just thinking out loud, could some of that money then go towards like the old city hall remodel type of thing?
Well, yeah, if the council wants to go ahead and do that, like I said, as staff, this is what we're recommending. And so the items on the right were items that we were just saying, this is something we can hold off on. Keeping in mind, we're going to have another round of capital monies available in February. So our fiscal year that just finished, as they wrap up the audit, we're anticipating a few $100,000 of that money now that is going to become available for capital.
One of the questions I also,
Yep.
it actually hit me at one of those 3 or 4 in the morning type of thoughts, you know?
You gotta get alive.
Boy. Yeah. Is Old Joe.
Uh-huh.
So, Deputy Chief, how much do we need for that?
Hard to tell. We've got the majority of it done. The only thing we're working on right now is the bed of the truck. We need to do a little bit of welding and make places for water tank and a couple of things.
I know that Justin Whatcott was working.
Doing a lot of work. Jake Larson's done a ton of work. A lot of guys done a lot of work on it. I'm guessing by the time we get paint and stuff done, we're maybe a couple, 3,000 to get that bed done. Be painted up, ready to go, and we got most of the other stuff ready to go on. We got all the fenders done, the hood, the cowling. We're working on a part for the motor, a timing chain gear. That's almost taken care of. We want to make sure that's working properly before we, slap the whole funding up. It's not far away, it's just that's that last little thing we get that bed working on.
So is it time or is it money?
It's a combination of both. With this corona thing hitting us the first year, we spent a fair amount of time, last year working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Money was a little bit of an issue. We're trying to, do it as cheap as we can, and a lot of the guys put a ton of work and time into it.
So if we gave you a little bit of money, you could probably finish it faster.
Yeah, probably, yeah, I'd say yes. If it's, either that, I bring guys back in overtime to come back and work on it. Because sometimes we've been so busy lately.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times on duty on the weekends,
Manpower.
they just put time and work on during the weekend. But it's been so crazy these past, 7, 8, 9 months that
Yeah.
it's been really hard for us.
I would,
For the Strawberry
I would
Days
love it. I would love it to be done
Would
by
too.
Strawberry
Get it
Days.
done.
Strawberry Days.
We need to have it done.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's set
Actually, does it run? Does it actually drive?
yeah.
Let's set something together, and I don't think that's too far out of reach, really.
I mean, if we're $2,000 or $3,000, let's get that done.
Let me sit down with fire department. If it's just a few $1,000s, that's not going to be a problem. We can
No.
get that taken care of.
Yeah.
So I'll sit down with them and we'll figure out what that looks like.
Because
so it can be
the
done
thought
by-
is to have it out front.
It's partially up front if you, it's there.
Oh, you did? I thought it was still in the bay.
We actually moved, one of the crews put it out in front of the bay, so you see through the front windows,
Okay.
clean, the black, it looks really.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good.
Like I say, a lot of it really is done, it's just this last little bit we gotta get done.
Oh, it'd be fun to have some Christmas presents falling out of it.
Yeah, let's
I'll work with the fire and we'll get that figured out so we have it ready to go by Strawberry Days.
So Scott, the 8 tennis courts, so are we not doing any at this time?
We're doing
Resurfacing any?
two.
We're
So
doing
we've already
2.
funded 2 courts, the 2 most
North
northern
ones.
courts.
So, but this says 8, so if we're already doing the 2, should this be 6?
No,
if
that's
we-
the priority number.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry. That's
So-
probably a little confusing. No, that would be for 2 more tennis
Okay,
courts.
so the tennis courts would be doing all of them? Or are
That'd
you
just
saying
be
just the
doing
2?
more. So we have 6 out there at Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
We've already committed to 2 to do the spring/summer, and then we have 4 left. And in my opinion, I think we want to let's get our pickleball courts open and then see the demand for pickleball versus the demand for
Well-
tennis and see if that drives us in a certain direction.
I think regardless, those courts need to be done, because those are heavily used, and so even if the pickleball courts get done, I think we've discussed this, that there's safety issues out there at Discovery with the tennis courts, that we need to get those courts resurfaced as soon as possible, because they are heavily used. So I think regardless of the demand of the pickleball, hopefully we can make that a priority with the tennis courts, because they're the condition right now.
And that's fine. I mean, that's for you guys to decide. If that's the direction you want to go, we can,
Joe.
I mean,
thought
we
that
have $140,000.
I thought that
that's
was the
unallocated.
discussion that we'd kind of been having about the tennis courts out there, that those are priority to get done.
Well, I guess in my mind, the fact that we were doing 2 of them was bump that up on the list. I think the last time we talked about the tennis courts, I almost came off the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
And so we got the 2 that we're going to get done. The 2 done is going to be great. The question is the demand for tennis versus the demand for pickleball.
But we can also, because people have been using those for pickleball as well.
Yeah, understood. I'm just saying and again, you can give me direction on where you want to go. In my mind, it might make sense to have 4 tennis courts and another 4 pickleball courts out there, instead of having 6 tennis courts and 2 tennis courts that could double as pickleball courts.
I guess what I don't want to happen is we wait and do anything down there because we want to see the usage here. Because I can already tell you the usage up at the pickleball courts is going to be huge.
Yeah, it is.
And so I don't want to wait another few years to get those done when those are heavily used as well for both pickleball and tennis. And there's some safety issues out there that need to be addressed.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, I mean, this is our recommendation. If you want to move those onto the list and we want to remove something off the list, then we can do that, whatever direction you want to
Let's
give us.
talk about it in February at our retreat and see where we want to put it. I don't think it's 2 years away. I think we're ready to move forward on, as soon as we have some more capital money to
What
do
about-
those tennis courts.
Okay. What about the old City Hall remodel?
Yeah.
Because now there's not any money in that category, and that has some issues as well that we've discussed in the past.
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, you guys tell us if you
Well,
want that
that's why I
funded.
asked if we couldn't move the 33.9 into the old,
Sid, what do you think?
into that.
I mean, what would it take to do that?
Well, I think we probably need a breakdown of what maybe some priorities of the old, because I'd rather do something than absolutely nothing over there. And so I guess we probably need
What is your thought to have that be? Like,
the old city hall.
yeah,
A meeting place for city groups, have the public be able to come through and just make it more of a place that people can come and utilize and.
They want to set up.
Hey, Scott, we have a representative
Hang
right
on,
behind
hang
you. We have a representative right behind Scott that can
Well,
address that, so.
and if Laura wants to come up, she can speak to it. I mean, Brent presented to us a breakdown of those costs. And so we do have a detail as to what exactly that is, and maybe Laurel could help us with that in regards to what that money would be used for. Why don't you come on up?
yeah, maybe just
I
a,
mean, that would be
just a
helpful.
2-minute, 3-minute, yeah.
Because when we're talking $150,000 reduction, I just want to know what we're talking about.
I have a detailed breakdown from the state architect that gives a minute per dollar breakdown of everything that needs to be done in that building. And I understand your concerns, Todd. We don't want to just restore it for the sake of restoring it. It has to have a purpose at the end.
And just to be clear, I don't have any concerns. I just
No,
I just
that's
kind of
my
wanted
thing.
to
What's the use
know,
gonna be?
No,
what
I
are
just
we going to
want-
do? Yeah,
No, I just want you to know that there's bang for buck with this project. It's not just
yeah,
to make it pretty, but
Yeah.
good.
it could be a city, well, it will be, the city archives. We've got a whole bunch of materials in the basement of City Hall that need to be stabilized. I would love to have them over in the new, or the old City Hall, open to the public, but we can't put it in there right now. That building is just falling apart. I would love it to be a civic center where people can come in and we have workshops there. The Beautification Commission can have their workshops there. We can have our workshops there. We can have the tree lighting, Mrs. Claus over there. I mean, there's just infinite possibilities we haven't tapped into. It can be a really great, like with the old rec center or this community room, there are spaces that we need for meeting areas that are at a really premium. There's not places for the community to meet, and this would be a really great place. We could have, what was it? There was 3 things. A conference room, functions, the city meetings could be there. You could rent it out for family functions or corporate functions. It's a very untapped potential over there. And right now, it hasn't had any renovations since 1987, so it's got significant issues with the damaged plaster on the interior. It needs new flooring. It needs a new roof. It needs new HVAC. The ceiling needs to be raised 4 feet. The windows need interior storm windows to make it more energy efficient. It needs some demo in there. It has some bad remodels from 1987. And I can send you a detailed cost breakdown from our state architect that talks about every single point for point. And his total is $153,000, and then Brent wanted to put a little bit more in there for security issues, like a lighting, motion detector lighting, and security systems, because it is kind of tucked back in the trees in the dark, and we've had issues with water. The sprinkler systems hit the north wall and caused damage. So if we had water sensors, we could protect the building better. So Brent wanted to put a little bit extra in there as well. We do apply for grants. They're always matching grants, but we can get money from the state for this, and we can also put some of our budget. We do allocate some of our budget every year into it. So that's what I know from what I've heard as concerns. Do you have any other questions about? Sorry, I'm talking super
No,
fast.
you're
Trying to
doing,
get my
that's
2
just
minutes in.
great.
You're great.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's
Laurel.
great.
Any other questions about the project? No? Okay, let me know if I answer anything else.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Just Todd, the $150,000 seems like it's really low.
That's what I thought. That's exactly what I
Well,
thought.
time you bid it out, you could be double or even more.
When I saw the list, that's actually why I was asking. You can't.
But
if
that's
you're-
just
when-
an estimate.
When you're talking HVACs and systems like that, I'm like,
Well, so Brent gave me there was actually 2 different cost estimates. They were they were legitimate cost estimates. This wasn't somebody just writing on the back of a napkin. I think one was $130,000 and one was $180,000. And so he just said, Scott, just put $150,000 in as the request. So to that point, there might be some things that might be additional, that might be better for what we're doing, that it could be more than 150.
well, but I guess that's probably just getting it up to, usability.
Well,
right?
we probably have all done remodel projects that start at a certain budget and change over time. So,
What's an average grant amount?
like $5,000 or 10. Yeah. They've done good to get those, but they are a little bit smaller than something of this size. I don't, I mean, again, you give us direction on, because the idea is once we settle where we're at today, then this will be a budget amendment presented to you January 5th. so that the funds will then become available for the departments to spend. So if there's something that you want to get funded here by January 5th, let's have that discussion. If there's things that can wait for February 19th when we have, because there will be more money available. I can't tell you exactly how much right now.
Right.
Yeah, I do know it's into the hundreds of thousands. And until our auditors get everything situated, then we'll know exactly where we're at. Then we can present that, we can bring this list back, we can talk, again, if there's things that you want to get funded by January 5th, then let's talk about it today, and then we can rearrange. Because there could be some other things that we could move off this list that we could bring back in February.
One question, on the,
Turn your mic up a little.
on the pickleball, we're moving that fence to shut off and close the pool area. What, is that fence included in the pickleball?
Yes, part of the pickleball park. So that's already part of that budget, yes.
Anything else, council? So we'll move ahead as, with our main list there, and we'll see when we have the other capital money and prioritize that, if that's what I'm reading, if everybody's okay with that.
So you're saying in February, the next round is when we could consider some of these items that have been moved to a future discussion?
Yes, yeah. And like I said, there's going to be a significant amount of money. It's not going to be $100,000. It could be $600,000-$700,000 that we have on the table. So I hate throwing out numbers until we're all done with the auditor, but I feel confident that there's going to be some things. Now, what we're funding here with the COVID money should hopefully take care of our departments for a little while, so that when we do have additional capital funds available, we can revisit now kind of the big ticket items. So tennis courts, if we want to do something at Battle Creek, if we want to, fix up the old city hall. Or if there's something else that's not on this list that you would like to see done or want a price on, let us know that, and we could have that price ready for February.
I mean, initially, my
Have to wait
thoughts
till
are
4 a.m.
get all the courts done. I mean, we have the brand-new park, we have, we've done some remodel down at the ball fields, and to have 2 courts done and then 4 not, that would be my initial thought. I mean, and I can wait till February, that's fine. But also the old city hall, I'd rather do something than nothing at all. So if we don't think that's gonna be a possibility in February, I'd like to allocate some money to that. But I guess we can just wait and see in February. But I know they've been working hard on getting that building up, and I do think that would be a great space for, some city groups and meetings and, to utilize.
Personally, I like the idea of using that for more of a public use instead of our community room. Our
Yeah.
community room, we don't allow anything other than a city use. That space could be a little different. It could be potentially rented out and treated a little bit differently. The access is different. That's one thing that makes it better. So we don't have to necessarily worry about the brand-new building. I can get worried about that a little bit, and that's part of the reason we don't do that. But that would be one of the benefits. When you say meeting space, yeah, I think some people would use that for sure.
Okay.
So, but all I'm saying, Sid, is if we want that funded, I don't know exactly where you're gonna land on February 19th as a group. But if the tennis courts you want funded on January 5th, or the remodel funded on January 5th, I think now's the time to say, okay, we want that on the list. If the council is okay to not have those on the list, then those will probably be the first 2 things we talk about on February 19th. I
Okay.
just want to make sure I have clear direction
Let's,
when I leave.
I'm okay with the moving forward on the 2 north tennis courts. That's kind of done. I do think there's an urgency on the south tennis courts, but I do want to see what the pickleball will give us down here. If pickleball is removed from Discovery, how many more tennis courts do we need?
Well, I think we should add pickleball down there.
Well, I guess that's what Scott's saying.
Yeah, that's
right?
my,
Is
that's kind of
let's-
where I'd rather see how that plays out
Yeah,
before
I
we
think that's
commit
okay.
funding and build something that all of a sudden is not necessarily going to be
Because
used.
we may want to put more pickleball courts at
Discovery.
Discovery. So,
That'll yeah.
So, but we're doing the two for sure.
Yeah,
correct?
the two north are funded.
And
And
then
they're bid.
pickleball
Those are
at,
bid and on schedule to be done spring, summer.
our pickleball courts are.
No, well, those two.
Yeah.
So the 8
I
pickleball
think we
courts
just-
will be done.
That's big.
We'll have the 2 new tennis courts.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, if I had to see into the future, we probably want to do 2 more tennis courts, redo those, and then instead of the other 2 tennis courts, we might want to just make them flat out
But that can
pickleball.
be.
That's what I- that's exactly
And I
what I'm
love that idea.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend like a year evaluating. So, I mean, is that like something we could discuss in February?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
yeah, I mean, if we do it in February, there's a potential that we could get things put in by the fall, depending on how quickly we can move on to the design of all that, but
Okay. I
That'd be
love that.
beautiful.
generally speaking, so. Okay,
Okay, council?
I think that's why we chose to do 2 and move forward and see, so,
Okay.
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll move on to our staff business, and Chief Roberts, you want to come forward? And we will not ask, hope you're not going to address us and say you're going to retire.
I think I will have the opportunity to die before I retire, so I don't have to worry about that.
Don't say that.
It's with pleasure that I don't have a lot to report. Things have been pretty quiet, so we're looking forward to the holidays and hoping that it's a quiet holiday and that we can just keep things running smoothly and keep everybody safe and go from there. Not a lot to report.
So what are they doing with, because I missed the honorary colonels, what are they going to do, shop with a cop this year? Is that still
They
going on?
canceled it at first, and then they felt bad about that, so they kind of changed the program a little bit. So now that they're giving, the store is giving the money that they were going to give for each child to they're separating the children. So the ones that they had signed up for each jurisdiction, they're giving the money to the police departments. So we've kind of got the money from the store that each child in our jurisdiction will be assigned an officer, and then the colonels are backing that money as well. So we'll have an officer that responds out to their house and takes them. Instead of going to the Kmart or the Walmart down in Spanish Fork, the officer will just respond to their house and kind of do a private shopping spree with the child and the family, and so that way they're not deprived of the situation, and they can kind of keep it more COVID friendly and keep it one-on-one. So it'll still happen. It's just not a large gathering. It's just each officer will be assigned one child. So it's good. It'll still happen, and it'll still work out for them. So
Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Keep everybody safe.
yep. We'll give it our best shot.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's too cold to commit crime.
Hey, that's when some of the time they come out.
Really?
Deputy Chief?
A long walk from the back of the room. You're really not a lot's going on. Chief retiring, a few things like that. So just a couple little things. No, we've lots going on. We've had between that, we still haven't filled Justin Walcott's spot, so we're still running a little bit short there. And with Chief and his decision, we're just kind of holding off just for a second, so we kind of maybe do things all at once and get it taken care of. So other than that, things are going along. Talking with talking about old Joe, like we're working on that slowly. We've been working with George Hallam, one of our old retired fire guys.
Yeah.
And he has collected a lot of old fire stuff. And I've been talking with his son-in-law, and he has actually gotten quite a few things for us now. We're kind of making this little scene we're going to make in the front room there. But you got an one of the old original desks that we have from one of the fire departments. We've got some original uniforms that we're going to put up there. So I think once we get old Joe done, we'll get all this other stuff together. I think that front room in that station will look really nice. So we're just kind of,
Awesome.
I think it's been a slow process, but other than that, things are going good. We're, just busy like everybody else, so.
I like nice.
Yeah.
So good work.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief. Thanks, Drew.
Sherry, why don't you come forward and...
Well, we don't have a ton going on in the library, but we actually have had about 80 views on the night of Mrs. Claus, which I think is pretty good for an online thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd tell you about some services we have online, which I've told most of you about before, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded. We have Learning Express Library. If you've never looked at that, it offers a ton of stuff. Test prep, so when you decide to go back and get another degree, GRE, GMAT, et cetera, is on there. Also, we have driver's test training so if you have a 15-year-old who...
Wow.
Yeah, on our website. But Learning Express, too, has citizenship training. It has computer training, word processing, things like that. If Excel, whatever you need. There's a lot of stuff on our website that's free that people aren't as aware of as we'd like. So if you hear of anybody who said, my kid really needs help, or I really need help with this, we do have resources available, and they don't even need to take a risk entering the library. Okay, so that's it.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Marty? I've got a question right off the bat for you, Marty. Down there, we've got the power company's got their facilities moved. Whose fiber's still on that pole down in the middle of the street?
Comcast.
It's Comcast? Let's just chop it off.
See if anybody complains down there. Is that what you're thinking?
Do they need a special invitation to get that moved?
We're
Or?
working with them, just getting everything in place, I guess, with their permits and moving it. So I don't know if they were just not notified till the last minute. It just seems like it's one thing after the other. So yeah, the power's off. Now we're working on Comcast. Once they're done, then the pole will be removed. So good question. Things are going well. We extended an offer to a city engineer, and he accepted that today. So
He did.
we'll be introducing him here in the next couple of weeks. He won't be starting until about the 11th of January. So in about a month, he'll be starting after the holidays. So
Is he local, or is he moving in, or?
from American Fork.
Okay.
So somewhat local, born and raised in the valley. So. Yes, and then we also, I sent a little email last week about the UDOT Safe Routes to School program that we applied for funding up on Loader Ave. So we were awarded that project, so we'll have to make some decisions quickly on what we do on that and moving forward and how we do that. Based on the program, we can move forward and get reimbursed in, what was it, 2023? I told you, I can't remember. 2022 is when the funding becomes available. So a couple years out, I think it was July 1 of 2023. So we're a couple years out before we would be reimbursed. But at the same time, if we did that project, then we could get reimbursed in that year. So just something to keep in mind of something moving forward if we wanted to get up there and get that done, knowing that there's
And that's on the east side of the street?
That's the east side of the street, getting sidewalk. Really, we've got it down to 3rd South, from 2nd South to 3rd South, and then it misses a couple of properties. Then we have it, then we miss at the end just before Orchard. So it's just getting all of that done, curb gutter, sidewalk, asphalt repair, widening, things of that nature to get rid of the complaints. We did get up there this last week and tried to clear up the corner again at 3rd South with some of the shrubs that were out into the road and making kids kind of come out close to the traffic. And so just had the crew run up there real quick and pull out some of those shrubs that were in the right of way and clean that area up a little bit so it's a little bit easier to access. So, but yeah, I think there's lots of things moving forward for this new year. So I think that's it, unless there's any other questions for me.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
We'll see you later,
Yes, you will.
Briefly.
Director. Actually, we're gonna make a time bet.
Doesn't his family need him?
Tyler?
Is there not a game on tonight?
Still got your doors open?
Yeah. We're busy. Like, when you guys are talking pickleball, just this morning at 5 in the morning, we had 6 courts going of pickleball to start off the day. So we're busy. Yeah, all 6 courts that we had. Pickleball, just as you guys talk about what to do at Discovery Park, it is exploding. There's a new complex that just opened in Orem, kind of down where the security places are, right off the freeway there. By UVU, a 16-court facility. It has outdoor surfacing. Someone's putting 16 courts in there with a championship court in the middle and making a big deal out of it, and then go in and play during the winter on outdoor surfacing indoors. And so it's crazy.
It's an indoor facility?
An indoor facility, yeah.
Is it a private facility?
Yeah, yeah, so,
That was smart.
yeah, so everyone's been kind of waiting for that person to come, because everyone likes that outdoor surfacing and likes to not change through the year to different surfaces. And so I think they're going to do really well. But just saying, pickleball is exploding, and it's awesome. Just a couple of reports. You guys saw, maybe we had our angel tree up at the rec center. We picked 4 families that we kind of ask our employees and just some families that they recognize throughout the community that could use some help. And the community responded amazingly, and we had all 4 families for everything that they had wants and needs, and were taken care of. And so we're going to present that to those families this weekend, and it's an awesome time to be able to do that for someone. So thanks to the community, thanks for the support there. It was awesome. Our dance is having their program tonight, socially distanced and COVID friendly. We have about 60 dancers up at the rec center that they're going to come at different times, and their parents get to come watch them dance. And so we get to still do that. Funshine, Santa came and visited all the Funshine classes still, and the kids were just elated that they got to see Santa still. And we finished finally our 2nd grade basketball and our volleyball. They were our fall programs. They just finished this last week, and we're glad to finish those. And junior jazz basketball is starting in January, and men's basketball has already started. And so the doors are open, Mayor. We're doing stuff. So
Good for you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Giles, Dion, come. Maybe you can fill everybody in on the library.
On the library?
On the library,
Oh,
on the lights.
geez. Breaking the bad news first, huh? So Jellyfish came in last week, realized that their ladders weren't long enough after they'd been here, so they will be here Saturday, the 19th, to install the lights on Jellyfish on the library with the ladder, or with a lift. So I'm not too pleased with them right now, but anyway.
City Hall got done?
City Hall's done and lit, yeah. They did that Monday, or a week ago Monday.
You gotta get out at night so you
I
can see
need
it.
to.
So,
It's too
yeah.
cold.
That's on a new system, that's on their new controller. It's pretty high-tech. We can do a lot with that one, and we'll put these other ones on the same app too eventually. But I want to get the done so we can bring in our IT guys and have everything programmed at the same time. Last week, we were able to take out the playground and the sand at Chrisville Park, so that is ready. The new playground shipped last week. So we're anticipating it to be here within the next couple of weeks and installed within the next couple of months. So that will be done. Then we were able to put the gate in at Battle Creek Basin with the help of Marty's guys last week also. So good week. And it snowed. We finally got some moisture. So that's a good thing. That's it.
Thank you. Well, I don't imagine, Kathy, you have anything to add. Forced us.
Don't we have some votes to canvass?
So, and Christine, you have any? You know?
Just to report that our new legal assistant started last week and a half ago, and she's doing very well. We can already see an improvement in the number of things that are getting filed with the court, so we're happy.
And Kyra. Hey, the mugs look good, so you did well. So thank you.
Very much.
So,
And filled with delight.
well, that concludes our director's business reports, whatever. So with that, we will adjourn a few minutes early from our work session, and we'll unless Scott.
Well, if you want, we could maybe have Marty go over some of his agenda items while we have a few minutes.
You know, that'd be great,
So that
Marty.
when we get into our meeting, maybe, Marty, are you prepared to, are you okay with that? If you have a 7 o'clock, Mayor, this will help you get
Okay.
there.
You have a 7 o'clock?
Up 7 o'clock.
What's that, 7 o'clock?
I gotta get my hair cut.
Not at this point.
That's true, it's exactly right.
All right. Really, can you scroll down on the agenda? Let me just go through the agenda items. That'll be, go down a little further on the public hearing section. So the state has been working for years, actually, to try to come up with what's called an LID standard, a low-impact development standard, for municipalities that are what are called MS4, or separate storm sewer system, municipal separate storm sewer system. So they call it an MS4. And we have to manage all of our stormwater according to the standards of the Division of Water Quality, and they've recently updated their standards. That standard update for this round was fairly significant in that it really wanted to look a little bit more at trying to get more water back into the ground where it naturally had percolated into the ground into the past. They wanted to make sure that that was being accounted for, as well as a water quality aspect to it. If you weren't able to get that water into the ground, then this, you'd have to look at water quality impacts by putting it into kind of rain gardens or other types of features that would help clean the water as it comes off of a parking lot, for example, in a commercial development or something. So what all of these changes, so we've got 9A, 9B, and then as also 10A and then 10B are really all coming from the aspect of this low impact development standard update that's being required by the Division of Water Quality. And there is a fairly significant impact that this will be to the development community in that they need to meet these new state standards, and now we'll be up to par as far as requiring those according to the state standards. So just trying to think of what questions would be good for you to know if you get questions really from developers. If you talk about a residential development, for example, they come in and they want to develop, according to the new state standards, that development would have to address individually the ways that they can get that water and put it into the ground and handle it on site on their individual development. So let's say a 10-lot subdivision comes in and say, hey, I want to build these 10 lots. They would have to address on those 10 lots how they take low impact development into account. What we decided to do, because we're about 80% built out in our residential zone, is we've kind of made two different standards. So our residential standards are we're going to try to handle all of the groundwater infiltration in regional detention facilities rather than having them deal with them on a 10-lot subdivision or a 4-lot subdivision. We want to collect it and bring it into a place that we can manage them a lot easier and deal with that rather than have them do that individually. So we've already passed the ordinance that allows for them to, they will pay a cost for the amount of stormwater that they're creating, and then we would take that and rehabilitate some of our stormwater detention basins to put that water into the ground. Now, when it gets to a commercial or a multifamily development, they will be required to meet all of the state standards with regards to low impact development. So that might, they're going to have to look at whether or not they can infiltrate water into the ground. If they can't do that, they're going to have to look at ways that they can enhance their landscaping to try to take the drainage off into their landscaping rather than directly into inlet boxes, run it through a swell, a grassy swell or some sort of vegetative area so that they can try to get it into the ground that way, or also clean it up a little bit. And so that's the intent of those 4 items. It should, if there's any question, it's text amendments. So we've done the standard process of the crossing out what's no longer applicable and then adding in the new text to be able to accomplish or meet the requirements of the state. So as far as the 10C item there, we have street lighting. Currently, we require a $5,000 cash upfront fee for a street light. So if you come in and do a development and you have a street light, you pay $5,000 up front so that we can have that street light installed. If that street light costs $3,500 to install, then we return $1,500 back to you. So it's just our way of making sure that we get those street lights paid for by our contractor that's installing those. What we found is that when we get into a collector or an arterial street, we require a decorative light rather than the simple town and country lights that we do in our local streets. And those lights cost more. And what we found is we've had to go, it's in our standards that the developer still has to pay for it if it costs a little bit more. But so we've had a couple of instances where we've had to go and ask those developers to reimburse us for the additional cost above the $5,000 cost per light because they've had to put in a town and country light. And we'd like to get away from that and having to go find them and make sure they get payment. So what we're proposing here is that if it's a street light and no town and country street light, it's going to be $5,000. If it's a decorative light, we want to do $7,500 per light so that we can collect that up front. When it gets installed, we reimburse it once we've got the payment, once the light's been installed and we've been invoiced for that. So it's not something that's a long duration. It's just to make sure that the city's covered for the cost of those lights with the least amount of work, I guess, to be able to accomplish that. So I think that's, and
And then your last one there, that
you want to, the last 2 really quick, NRCS, Mill Ditch, we've already talked about it. This is the agreement for that. And then the other one is the agreement with American Fork City for reimbursement for that project.
Okay, thank you, Marty.
Good.
So with that, we will conclude our work session and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's work session.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman
Anderson.
Anderson, and second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?